I know that this may sound cliche, but when you hear you don't really need money, when motivational speakers say you don't need money to run the business. I mean, you start from where you are.
Do you agree with that statement, by the way? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching this podcast from. This is the Adventures Podcast, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this very maiden edition of the podcast. On the Adventures Podcast, we seek to share inspiring stories of courage and vision behind the organizations and the brands that you see and interact with every day. By sharing their stories, we hope that you can learn from their journey, some of their pitfalls, some of their mistakes, and by so doing, you can accelerate your own journey to entrepreneurial success. Joining us for this very first edition of the podcast is Mr. Sefa Ikyaator, the founder and the CEO of Suplias, also known as Obtainly. Obtainly is a B2B financing outfit that provide inventory financing and LPO support for SMEs within the FMCG space. And he is here today to share with us profound insight on his journey that he has gathered in the course of his journey as a business founder and leader. I will encourage you to please get your writing materials, sit back, have fun as we go through this conversation. But much, much more than that, look out for tips and look out for insight that will help you even as you embark on your own entrepreneurial journey. Once again, thank you for joining us for this particular podcast. Looking forward to hearing your feedback. It's a pleasure to have you around. Sefa, you want to say hello to our viewers?
Hello. Really, really feel good to be here. So hello to the viewers, and thanks for inviting me, Kunle.
Thanks. It's a great pleasure. Sefa is the founder and the CEO of Suplias, right? And today we basically want to travel, go on a journey on how Sefa founded this particular outfit, right? And what the journey has been like over the years. Our intent is we want to hear the stories. We want to hear, some of the pitfalls, some of the great things that happened. We will go, question by question. Our intent, hopefully, is that we'll be able to take a lot of learning from it, and then by so doing, help younger entrepreneurs coming behind you to even go faster. All right. So, Sefa, once again, great to have you around. If you can start by telling us a little bit about, Suplias, what you do. So take this as your unpaid advert.
All right. So, Suplias helps SMEs, right, with inventory financing. So that's what we do. Basically, working capital that mom and pop stores, retailers, wholesalers, distributors in our markets like Ocharin and the rest. We provide working capital for them to buy products from their suppliers.
Wow.
That's what we do. Yes.
Okay. And Sefa, can you tell us a little about the scale of your operation today in terms of maybe the number of retailers, wholesalers, mom and pop stores that you work with today, like the scale of exposure that you currently have? I'm sure everything is properly, the risk is properly managed and all of that, but just a little bit of idea in terms of scale. What can you say to that?
Yes, so we try to shy away from giving like specific numbers of our business, being that we're a super private company, right? But we operate across. We have two main apps. One is for retailers, and the other is for distributors, right? And today we have customers across Nigeria, in most of the states. You can hardly pick a state where we do not have a customer, right?
Wow.
So that sort of thing. One thing I can tell you is we have such a great process that our collection rate is 99.9%. So
Wow.
99.9% of all the um, loans, so to speak, that we've given out,
Mm,
we've collected it back. And that's based on the systems that we have, um,
mm,
you know, and also how easy it is. And most importantly, we work in line with what our customers really love, the
mm.
everyday way that the buy and sell. So it's really
Mhm.
convenient for them to pay back as well. So that's why we have such an awesome collection rate. Yes.
Thanks a lot for sharing that, Sefa. You don't know how much I am tempted to want to double click into your process, right, to understand how you do that because I know that's a whole lot, right? I mean, my process oriented brain really want to get into the nitty gritty of that, but I'm pushing back on that temptation. So I want to stay on the an agenda that my directors have given me. So let's come back and talk about how this idea came to be, right? How did you generate these ideas? What were the pain points that you saw in the market, and how were you able to crystallize this into something sellable?
Yeah. So, I mean, my background, like, but just for you viewers, has been in FMCG professionally, right? And we met at Procter and Gamble, where um, I spent a lot of my career. And what we used to do back then is always try to keep it as simple as possible to get the products into more stores, right? To drive distribution. And I would always think, what's the best way to do this? So,
Mm.
I once saw an ad from Amazon Dash. So this is an advert where someone just clicked the button and then a drone delivered a bounty and some other consumer goods to them. And I was like, this is really great technology. And how can this sort of thing help us to get products into stores? Because we're always saying, look, how do we get more products into stores? And what came to my mind was, look, we may not have a button to click, but we can have an app. We may not have a drone to deliver, but we can have the same vans that take this product and make it way more efficient, because a lot of the times the vans drive to the customers to sell, but they are not able to sell. That there's some inefficiencies there that I was like, look, we should be able to solve this. So I called my friend and co-founder Steven. I said, Steven, this is what I think. Can we build something to test it out? Like 3 weeks later, we had like an app out there, and we're just trying it. What we'll do is we'll give out the app to retailers and say, look, place an order on this app and it's going to be delivered to you the next day. And we did that pilot for say 3 months, and we saw that there was something there. I was like, look, these people are using this app. It's not a joke, they're using the app. And so we did that. We at some point left our jobs and said, look, I was in Lagos already. Steven was in Abuja. He resigned. I met me in Lagos, and I resigned eventually to join Suplias full time. Now, at the time, the original idea was getting the products to the stores. What we discovered after some time was that while these guys, these retailers and wholesalers were interested in getting products in an efficient manner, what's most important for them, the biggest pain point was actually access to finance to, run and grow their business. So we felt like, look, if today what's most important to the our customers is actually access to finance, then it would be great to pivot to that. And so we had a conversation, and that's where we started out Obtainly, which is our product that we use for financing
No,
inventory
no, no.
for mom and pop
Hang on,
stores and distributors.
hang on. So let me get this correct, right? So originally, this was a logistics intervention, right?
Absolutely.
That
Yes.
fix the whole supply chain inefficiencies, get the product to them faster, quicker, right? So that because these guys don't have a lot of money to hold a lot of inventory, so they need to get stuff on the go. This was the original
Yeah.
idea, right?
Yes, that
So
was it.
what I'm
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is, as you started working with them, you spotted another opportunity, right, to do more of like inventory financing, and then you pivoted into that. Is that correct?
Yes, we're very, very accurate. That's what happened. We experienced a couple of challenges as well. So when we saw
Yeah.
that this wasn't even their biggest problem, and we had challenges that we didn't have a solution to, we
Mm.
decided to pivot. We can talk more about some of those challenges later on. So
Yeah,
yeah,
hopefully we will get to some of the challenges because
yeah.
we say to our viewers, people who have done it before know where the bodies are buried, right? You have the
Mm.
experiences, you know the
Now I'm
stories, you know.
scared.
Yeah, don't be scared, right?
Okay.
It will be good to get into that at some point. But before we do that, I've had a couple of interfaces with a few entrepreneurs here and there, and one of the big issues that they have is putting numbers to their opportunities, right? Being able to do some kind of quantification, if you get what I mean. Now, how do you what we call size of price, but back in the day, right? How to quantify the opportunity and in a no disrespect meant for MBA folks, right? But in a not MBA kind of language, how did you kind of quantify the opportunities to know that this is sizable enough and this can be something. How did you cross that hurdle?
So I think first is I don't think it's even as complex as you're making it sound. Uh,
So
yes, yes, it's really about how many type of customers. So, I mean, MBA people will talk about bottom up, top down approach for market sizing, but the simple thing for someone who's starting out, you know, it's really this is the product or service that I'm offering. This is the amount that I can charge. How many people can I sell to? These are the number of people that I can sell to.
but
If
yeah.
I multiply that together, how much can I get in terms of revenue for this business? That's it.
Mm,
Nothing more complex than that. There's absolutely nothing more complex because the business is going to evolve, right? It's going to evolve. Uber started as a taxi, right? They used to own their cars. And they used to own their cars. You get what I mean? So there's something Mark Zuckerberg is famous for saying that ideas don't come out fully formed.
yeah.
So what you should do is uh, uh, just get the service you want
Started.
to offer. How many people do you think you can reach with this? That way, you know if it's big or small enough, right? And so you can now go into saying, what is this business eventually going to evolve to at
Mm,
saturation point? Is this business the type of business that is going to evolve to being $1 million business, $100 million business, $1 billion business, $10 billion business? So that way you'll be able to tell, right? By a simple, this is what I'm offering per customer. How many potential customers can I have? That's it.
can I help? I mean, thanks a lot, Sepa, for simply. I've always known you for simplifying things anyway. So you have a knack for making very complex things go, make it keeping it simple. So thanks a lot for that. You know, uh, yeah, and I'm just thinking. You mentioned that when Steven first developed that app, right? That you guys did some kind of pilot back in Abuja back in the day. Now, I know that you probably have some kind of retailers that you started with, but when you're pivoting into the financing and all of that, how did you? There is a broad category of retailers, wholesalers, and all of that, but I'm sure that you probably did some further profiling to know that the kind of people you can, support, give money to risk assessment and all those kind of stuff. Can you shed a little light on that in terms of how you profile your customers or potential customers?
Yes. So at the time we had to meet these people. I mean, we're interacting with them all the time and hearing this problem, right? And so it was not about profiling them because we already had that much interactions with the same people from my background in FMCG sales, and all that. I had already known a lot of these people. My family owns a distribution business, so it's kind of like stuff that that profiling wasn't the issue. The issue was more from the side of the required skill set to solve this problem, which we didn't have at the time, right? Because we're moving from people who knew how to move products from one place to another, going into the lending, which is a different ballgame because of the credit risk. So that was more of a challenge at the time, us trying to get the expertise that is required and test things out, right? So, of course, we started. One thing that can be helpful is we tested a couple of things before even building an app. When we're moving to build Obtain with, yes, we tested a couple of things, yeah, before even building an app to say, okay, if we give out this money to these customers, when are they gonna? And we want them to pay back in a certain way. Um, we how are we going to tell if this works or not? So we did all of that testing really, really manually before building any app. So when we're building the app, we had already known what exactly will work, what will not work. I'll give an example.
Okay, I was
We
going to
take
ask you for that.
yes, we take a certain, we give a credit line, and our credit is every 30 days. So you pay and you get it again, and it's a credit line.
You
And
pay the full amount every 30 days.
yes, you pay the full amount.
Okay.
And so what we say is there's a sweet spot where is you'd ensure that your credit is large enough for the customer to place an order, yet small enough for it to be so easy for them to pay back. And so we have to adjust. What does that really mean in the most simplified way, right? I'm laughing because I don't know if I have to share all of this, but yes, what does it mean in the
No,
most
it's totally
simplified
fine.
way?
It's totally fine. You're okay. Just go ahead.
So anyway, we're able to adjust certain things to get to the percentage of somebody's business turnover that makes sense for a certain type of business. So while you imagine you go through a process where you analyze different businesses from a credit point of view, and you do all sorts of things to get to what the credit line would be, the amount. And we went through the process to incredibly make it simple where we just know that that's a certain percentage of the person's turnover for this type of business. Because remember, I was dealing with the exact same type of businesses, right? And that's why we grade them, and so now moving too far away from where we are, but don't worry, if I go too far away, you can bring me back.
I'll bring you back.
One of the things that differentiates us from a typical lender is we lend to the exact same type of people. So our assessment takes a very short period because the same type of people. Because we know there's a wide range. We've
How that
analyzed
industry works.
a lot of it, right? So we know.
Got it.
And so we don't have to go and start from scratch, right?
From scratch.
That sort of thing, yes.
So
and a typical lender has a wide range of people they are dealing with. So every single time they're analyzing the business, they have to go and profile. For us, we keep it very simple. It's the same set of people. And we've analyzed so many of them, their P&Ls, every single thing, right? And so once we see the business, we know exactly what to do in terms of credit assessment and analysis, yeah.
Wow. So it means basically that they tell you what their turnover is, you confirm that number, and you know exactly how much you can offer them. As simple as that, because you know like supply chain, you know the turnover, you know the industry like the back of your hand, right? So you just basically.
Yes, if I was going to oversimplify, that's what I'll say. But we get some other things, right, which we've automated to make it very simple. But yes, that's the simplest way that it can be put, right?
Got it.
So typically, if someone tells me their turnover for the type of business, I can tell them like, okay, I think that this is the
It's what
range
you
of what's
need,
going to come out, but just give us a date. We'll do this stuff, and then we'll be back,
and it will come
right?
back to you.
Yeah.
So, okay. And these loans, are they in any way collateralized, or you
No, no,
just
no, no, not with landed property, right? We
okay?
would use things like the inventory itself. It could be
Okay,
something, but not with landed property. We
not
have
part
other
of it.
ways to ensure that we
You get
mitigate
one.
that risk. Yes.
All right, all right. I mean, Sefa, thanks a lot for sharing all of that. I find them very useful, right? And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out that'll find that very useful. But back to conversation around starting and scaling businesses, right? Now, your model is basically built around a particular sector of the economy, a particular, business. You provide support for a particular set of business. Is there a possibility of expanding that scope in the near future? Or for now,
Very
it's
well.
just, uh,
Absolutely. So our purpose as a company is to help local businesses thrive and
mm,
excel. So
okay,
whatever it is that's going to help local businesses thrive and excel is within our scope of what we can do, because
got
that's
it.
why we exist. Right now, that said, even in the business of providing working capital,
Mm-hmm.
we move. Our plan has always been we would move from one sector to another because we want to be experts at doing that,
And
and that's
mm,
how we would ensure that we can provide the best type of service.
yeah,
Right. For instance, our interest rates are we go and check that with this interest rate, right, and with this level of interest rate, yeah, we know that this person is going to be making money
mm,
from what they are taking from us, and we
mm.
know that there's a certain interest rate that no longer makes sense for this business.
Sense.
So,
Mm.
so if that class of business goes to, some lender that's charging some really high interest rate,
Exorbitant, yeah.
at some, there is going to be a problem. At some point, the
Mm,
guy's going to find it difficult to
mm,
pay back, right?
mm.
And so we already analyze that and know in our minds that, look, it just doesn't make any sense to charge this guy more than this amount.
You won't be able to pay.
You won't be able to pay. You get what I mean? So
Yeah, no.
that's what that type of expertise helps us to do,
Mm,
right? Really understand the business and serve the customer's needs and understand what is practical from the customer's point of view. Now, just
yeah.
because the person is paying back a loan with an interest rate that doesn't make sense doesn't mean that it's sustainable for them. And so what happens down the line, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, the person is going to pass. Do you get what I mean? And so for us, we put all of that into consideration. That's why
Mm.
it's about being an expert of a certain sector of the market.
It's a key
And
problem.
then if
Mm.
we're going to expand, we'll expand again. But we're only going to expand when we become an expert. So the approach for that
In
would
the
not be like, it would be like you're launching a new product.
line, a new product. So
That's what it is. It's a new product line.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I totally
Yeah.
get it. Makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. And thanks for sharing that. Now you touched on a subject that is a bit very. All this is close to my heart, but this is even closer, right? The long term sustainability of the businesses of your clients, right? A lot of a lot of business people don't think about these things. We just want to, what can I get out of there, right? Let me survive today. We can talk about the future later. But you're taking a very different approach. I mean, it's borderline destructive, right? um, Thinking that you need to be sustainable for me to be sustainable, right? And if I can get you to be, do business with you in a way that is sustainable, maybe you'll be here long enough for us to even build something together and we grow together, which is great, right? Now, the question I have for you on the back of that, Surfer, is as great as it is for these businesses to get rates that are competitive and great, right? That helps them to do their business in a way that's profitable. How do you manage that vis-a-vis your own internal stakeholders, right? Your funders, and maybe it's okay for me to assume that the money is not coming out of your private pocket that you're lending, right? It's coming from funders.
I, I've
I
not made
wish
that much money yet. Yes.
I really wish but I
Yeah.
know that money is probably coming from other stakeholders and all of that. So how do you balance that in a way that ensures that, they don't feel like they can get better value for their funds elsewhere, uh, than what they're getting from suppliers or obtaining?
Yeah. So there are different ways to look at it. Because at the end of the day, what you're looking at is your overall revenue.
Yeah.
You may come from you may decide to go with, I'm going to have high interest rates, high default rates. Once this squares out, you may be like, okay, I have an okay interest rate, extremely low default rates. It's this squares out. Because for everything you're defaulting, it's like a line item on your P&L.
Yeah.
Anytime someone doesn't pay back, there's that line item. So at the end of the day, you have to now ask yourself, which game do you want to play? Okay. And all that. Now, for the type of businesses that we serve, the game that makes most sense is the game we're playing, which is we would give interest rates that make sense. They're competitive. They're not like Father
Free.
Christmas, but
Yeah.
yes, they're competitive. And at the same time, we'll make sure that people are able to pay back. Why? Because these are traders who buy and sell every day. Now, there are different types of businesses. Some of the businesses are not the ones who buy and sell every single day. Some don't need that much capital. So it depends on the game you want to play. If you want people who, okay, someone has a contract, someone has a particular, one of a deal where the profit margin is large. Yes, then you can play that game. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So there are deals where people on a transaction, they are making as high as 60%.
But that's
It's one off. They might not have any deal again for the next 7 months.
Yeah.
Do you get where I'm coming from? So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's great. It's good use of your money. And those type of people are also the people that can disappear more easily than the do you know what I mean? So, so it's really just to keep it purely mathematical. It's a case of what's my overall revenue, right? Because at the end of the day, you do the math and say what's the effective interest rate, right? There's the interest rate, there is the cost of funds, then there is the default rate, and at the end of the day, if I plus or minus, what is the end? And if the end of that makes sense to you, then by all means, you should go with that. So our stakeholders are fine. We have good gross margins, so we're good.
At the end of the day, it's a gross margin game, right? It's a gross margin game.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. And this takes me to the next question around, sort of where you, just like what you spotted in the market when you started doing the whole supply chain intervention thing, you noticed, right, amongst maybe your customers there, maybe the people you were piloting stuff with, and that certain funding, it's a big deal for these guys. And if that can be cracked, right, it will be a great unlock, right, of potential or of opportunity. So you speak to an average, entrepreneur or somebody who has an idea or who has started playing with one or two ideas, right, out there in the market, and the conversation is always around, I wish I can lay my hands on $1 million or 2 or 10 million or 50, or you understand. Funding conversation is never, is always there, right? Would you be able to share with our viewers how you manage that, how you overcame that funding challenge? And, maybe, I know you probably went through some kind of programs and all of that, but fundamentally in principle, what are the things that they can take from you, right, and reapply in their own case and see how they can also, who do they need to become to be able to attract funding? I think that's a better way to put the question.
Yeah. So what I say the first thing to do is to understand the different vehicles that are available, and then check that versus the type of business that you want to, right? So when you're thinking about getting funding for an entrepreneur, you need to think about who are the people who provide funding for entrepreneurs. What do they want out of the funding experience? In our case, we went for venture capital, right? And what they want is a business that has the potential to become a $1 billion business at a minimum, right? So the question is, are you working on something that in the next 5 to 7 years can become a $1 billion business? That's the question to answer. If your answer is yes, then you can go for venture capital, right? That sort of thing. And so that's the first stage. And there are a lot of businesses that don't need to bother with that. There are other ways that you can get funding, right? Yes. But first is think about that. When you're done, next thing you need to think about is where are you starting from? Okay. It's a very important question. Yes. Are you the son of a wealthy man? Are you the son of a wealthy man that will give you $1 million? If that's it, then very nice. You're gonna write the check. If you're not in that position, then you have to start from where you are, right?
You are.
And the big question to every single person is, why should they give you their money? And if someone's friends cannot trust them enough to give them money, why would me, a stranger?
Why should I? It's a fair question. Much? Yeah, it's a fair question.
Why should I, right? So all of that. So I say start from where you are and all that. And I know that this may sound cliche, but I love, when you hear, you don't really need money. When motivational speakers say you don't need money to run the business. I mean, you start from where you are.
Do you agree with that statement, by the way?
That you don't need money. I think that
there will be an element of truth.
There is, right? I just feel like if you're making, okay, I'm going to say this because you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, so we know some things in terms of the church background. There are things that on Sunday service, the pastor is going to come and say. There are the things that the pastor will never say on Sunday service, but when he's having his pastor summit for his junior pastors, he will say those things there. Because they can take
process
that and decipher it and process it properly. Do you get? So when you make a statement that you don't need any money to run a business, it is true for someone who understands that level. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Yeah. So for someone else, it'd be like, what is this guy talking about? Right? So if you ask me, I'll say, look, you need money to run a business. However, that's not the first thing that should come to your mind. So I guess that's what they usually try to say when they say you don't need money.
Which is a fairer approach, right? So you're not denying the fact that they need it, right? Or certain things needs to be in place for them to, otherwise that money will just go down the drain,
Absolutely, right? So back to the individual or group of individuals who want to start this business. Do you know the business you want to start? Do you have the skill set to make it happen? What can you do to show that you know what you are talking about? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I said, step number one is, what's my type of business? And this my type of business, what type of investor can you attract? So you need to be clear on that. So you understand the different vehicles that are out there and what they can attract. Now that you're clear on the type of investors that it will attract, the next thing would be, how can I show that I know I can run this business. And then the last would be, how can I reach these investors to show them? Okay, so these are like tricky things. In our case, before I resigned, we had already started like a map. There was traction. We had people using this app. Though there was nothing behind the app besides one thing that people press. The rest will rush and go and buy it in the market from whoever has it.
And there you go. So,
Because we just wanted to see if there was something there, right? Before we even started thinking about, okay, where are we going to get vans? Okay, we'll buy some vans. And at some point, we're now working with third-party logistic partners, all of that stuff. But it's from one state that you get to another. In our case, once we decided that this is something we're going to do, I resigned. The way for us to connect to those investors was via Y Combinator. We were lucky enough to be part of the Y Combinator process that gave us a lot of exposure to investors, local investors in Africa, and then Europe and North America as well. Yes. So, but before we went to the third leg, which is how do we access the investors, we're already clear on the first leg of our business can grow really fast and become $1 billion business. We have done something to show that we have the expertise to make this thing happen. And then we now got into Y Combinator, which helped to give us exposure to a lot of investors and also teach us a lot on just how to grow and run a technology business.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Sefa, for that. You in the course of this conversation, you've said something a couple of times, right? And I want to double click on it, right? You said something like before I resigned, right? And and I want us to double click into that a little bit to talk about your transition from paid employment, right, into full-time, because at times we get ideas that we're so excited about the idea, we have not proven it in any way. And then the first thing is, I resign, I face this. What would your advice be for that smart guy who is working somewhere, earning some, not bad salary, maybe not good salary, but not bad salary either, but you get what I mean, but has this idea and it feels like this is going places, right? What would your advice be to that person in navigating, that turn?
So before I answer that question, I was thinking about a meme that I saw yesterday on the WhatsApp status of a mutual friend of ours, Ayo Awochika.
Okay.
So I saw the meme, and it was one guy that there's someone saying, they asked the guy a question. They said, what advice do you have for the coming generation? And the guy said, don't come.
I saw that. So I just shook my head. I saw this guy is not serious. Don't come. Don't bother.
Don't come. So, yeah, I'm not going to say don't come, right? So what I'll say first is if you want to be an entrepreneur because it appears to be cool, then don't bother. It's not worth it, right? If you want to be because that's what you're passionate about, then you should. I'm not just passionate about. That's what you maybe passionate. That's what you want to do, right? And not because you feel like you're going to make more money from that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and that's important because it's incredibly more difficult than when you're in paid employment. Like way more difficult, right? And so if you are not passionate about it and you're not making that decision because you want to be a businessman or an entrepreneur, but it's just because you feel it's cool and you want to make money, then don't bother, right?
Bother.
Now, that being said, if you want to, there are a couple of things that you can do before you resign. right? And the I'll share my story. For me, it's a bit different because my dad is an entrepreneur, so I grew up in a household that is, in that sense, not conservative, right? I was never raised to say, "Hey, go get when you go to school, you get a good job, and you get a good job and you be promoted and all of that." No, never. When I got a job and I was going for the job, my dad was like, "Hey, you said you're not going to do a job, right? What's happening?" And I was like, "Don't worry, I'm going to do it for 18 months and I'll gain some experience." And that's how I ended up in Procter and Gamble for 7 years plus, right? And ended up working for quote unquote paid employment for say 13 years. But my story is a bit different. When I was resigning and uh, I sent the message to the family WhatsApp group, and my mom said, "Finally," so it's a bit different.
Well,
Yes, yes, right. So it's a bit different. That sort of thing. It's different. I spoke to my wife about it. I was just like, "Hey, yeah, you should go ahead and do it," because she had already known, right? Since that's what I was about.
mm-hmm.
Now, this is just one aspect that is really important. Having a solid support system that would encourage that, because people look at me and say, "Hey, you had a not too bad job and you were on track for really good things. Why would you make this type of decision?" And I know that no matter how tough it gets, nobody in my family is going to make that type of statement to me. Not my wife, not my father, not my mom. I don't know if you get what I mean. All they're going to say is that, "Hey, this is how business can be. Sometimes, it works. Sometimes it doesn't. You're going to get back on your feet." Do you get what I mean? So having that
Yeah.
solid support system in my case was really important. Now, for people who may not have this type of support system, it's a different ballgame. You have to be a bit more mentally tough, right?
Mm.
That's on the you know soft side of things. On the hard
Yeah.
side of things, we did a lot of experiments. We had a pilot already, right? Stevie still had his job when we built that up. You get, and so it was savings from our
So
job
Steven is like
that
your
we.
CTO, right?
Yes, so I see to you.
Okay.
He still had his job when we built the app. When we're doing that pilot, I had a job, Steven had a job. And
Mm.
we were working at night. So in the daytime, we and do our daytime job. Then at night, it would be me and Steven.
You
And
call
then we
them.
had to meet some other people who help us go to the field to check something. Then on Saturdays, we also go and do small research. And then we'll come back again. And at night, we'll be working. Right? So it was that sort of thing because you have to build conviction that
Mm.
is this thing, is
Going
there something here?
Mm.
You know? And then we also didn't resign at the same time. Steven resigned first, right? Because we also needed some money to build out like a proper app. The first one was just
Some guys playing. He wasn't professional looking. Yeah.
yeah, and we had to be in Lagos, right? So
Yeah.
what would not happen? Steven would resign. I'll still be working, and then I'll be taking a huge chunk of my salary and be putting
But
it into the business. Because at the time we now have to hire um 2 more
if you're
engineers to work with Steven.
okay. Mm.
Right? But we're fully clear on the point where I would resign. So and again, this story is a bit different because Steven and I have a history and we're very good friends, and he had enough trust in me to know that I was not playing the game where Omo, if he had me as the game worker. No, no, he absolutely didn't know that. He absolutely didn't feel that way, right? So that's another key thing. Having the right partnership
Yeah.
and all that is very, very critical. So yes, we tested. We were practical. We knew that for us to demonstrate enough to get support, we I would have to be working because we needed some money, right? So I was still working. And then from there, we got to the level where we could get some of our friends of our friends to provide
Mm.
some pre-seed capital. And
And then,
we were like, look, it's now time. We have engineers on board. Steven moved to Lagos. We got a house where we're staying there with the engineers and everybody. It was the office and house and everything all joined together. You right? So when the
mm.
time that we had agreed on, when it got to that time, I had to resign.
How to live. But at that time, like you said, the business has already taken a degree to an extent, some shape, right?
No, it
And
hadn't.
okay,
It hadn't taken that type of shape. It was at a stage where we could afford to pay our engineers, right,
mm.
based on savings and from our friends that we had gotten,
Okay,
at least for 6 months. And in our minds, we're like, okay, if we can pay our engineers for 6 months and we can hustle out whatever it is we're doing here, then we might as well. There's no need for me to be working because we've
okay,
saved out enough for that. Yeah.
okay, okay. But at that time, I mean, you had clarity. You are convinced that this is going somewhere, right? The concept is already proven. People are already, some customers were already, or retailers were already on board. So
Yes. Yes.
concept
Yes.
was
Yes.
already.
Yes. It was
It
it was
wasn't.
clear that we're getting customers. Yes.
Yeah, you are not doing. You're not doing easy Russian relay or something. You're not playing
No,
cards
no,
like.
no.
I think at
It
that time you
wasn't a
had it
PowerPoint presentation.
anymore, anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
great, great to hear that. Now, if you will look back, right, and I know you've mentioned a couple of things around pivots and all of that. What would you consider the critical inflection point in your entrepreneurial journey, right? You know, that you look back and you're like, if that hadn't happened, only God knows where we'll be today. You get what I mean?
Yeah, there are plenty. No one. There are
Go
plenty.
ahead.
And there are plenty behind, plenty coming in front. It's like a constant thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the constant things. There are different things. If I had never been, if I never met Steven before, um, that sort of thing. If I never saw the ad, if I had never worked in Procter and Gamble, I never would have gotten that um, exposure, right, to FMCG problems. If we had never gotten into Y Combinator, it would be way more difficult to raise funds, right? So if I look back, there are like a lot of different elements in the journey that I can point to say if that had not happened. But there are just so many things. I can even go back to me getting employed to Procter and Gamble, which
Yeah.
is that my elder brother came to the room and said, "Hey, go and apply for this job. You with all this your big dreams and the rest and businesses that you're always
Yeah.
talking about, you will learn when you get that job how to do business better." That sort of thing. So I think it's like there are a whole lot of different things, and a lot of them are connected to people. If I had not met certain people or certain people were not in my life, um, will not be doing the business here right now. Yeah.
Sefa, thanks a lot for sharing that. It is way more instructive to me than it sounds, right? And I know that you kind of keeping it simple, but it speaks a lot to the value you placed on people and your relationship with them and how you met them and all of that. But not just meeting them, it also speaks a lot about how the kind of value that guides your interaction with people. Do you understand? And this is what I mean. Imagine if just using a typical example, or just imagine if Stephen gave you some money to keep at some point, right, for any reason, or gave you something to keep, and he needed it, and you started telling him story, right? And they want to let to the other. You probably would not stake something higher than that, right, on you as an individual. So what this tells me is over time, right, it's not just about you met them quite all right, and those things were quite instrumental, but these were people that are still in your life, right? And I think it speaks a lot to your value as an individual, to the value system that guides your interaction, right? Even as an entrepreneur, as an employer of labor, right? And I want to double click into that a little bit, right? Now, because by the time you start bringing 2, 3, 4, 5 people together, it's been said that culture will hit strategy for lunch, right? Culture will hit strategy for lunch. And culture is largely informed by our value system, right? Amongst us. Now, when you started building this team and all of that, how did you go out shaping the culture, right, the value system that guides your interaction as a company or as a startup?
So yeah, I mean, it's amazing, right? Especially the context that people talk about culture and the rest, right? When they say culture, a lot of people think about free apple and coffee and all those things, right? Just and all that. So so there are certain things that are important, right? To me as an individual, Stephen as well, and it comes up in the way that we do things at Supplier. We One of the things we talked about was we are not even going to articulate any of our values until running the business to a particular time, so that we are being practical. So we ran the business for some time and now said, okay, now we ran this business for a couple of months now. We know what makes sense to us and what does not. Let us articulate those things. So we clearly called out those things that made sense for us and what doesn't make sense for us. And then, we keep refining it. It's like work in progress all the time. We come back and refine. Why is it important? Because it provides clarity for us to down to, if these are things that are important to us, how do we ensure that our recruitment process ensures that
Factors
those set of
will give
things
that
that
kind
are
of
valuable to us are the people that we would hire? Because the biggest thing when it comes to culture is the people you're hiring. It's not what you're doing to them after they hire. Do you get?
yeah.
It's who they were before you hire them, right? Because they who they were is like the best thing, right? And so we set up our entire recruitment process based on the things that are important to us. Every single thing, right? Every single thing, like every single question in an interview is connected directly to what
So
is
the
important to
values
us.
you have articulated.
Exactly, right?
And what
And
are
all
those
that.
values?
So
Share. No, if you don't want to share, it's
you,
totally fine, but we can share. We go
no,
for our people to know.
no, there are. So we're breaking it down. There are values and then sub values and behaviors. Our
Okay.
values were bold,
Okay.
were innovative, we're
Mm.
fun, and we're a team of experts.
Okay.
Those are like the values, right? And then we break it down in simple language, because bold can be interpreted in different ways, right?
Oh, I
At
got take one.
Yeah, so for us, bold means that you're fine with thinking about a very, very high target. You're very, very okay with thinking about that and thinking about something that is big enough to scare somebody. That's your bold, right? You're willing to get into that situation, roll up your sleeves, and work proactively. That means you're bold. So we are able to break it down to everybody so that it's very clear what being bold means. And what is being fun. We break that down. What is being innovative, right? We're able to break that down. Team of experts, what does it mean? Right? We're able to break all those things really down for for our people. So we talk about things like being intellectually humble, right? What exactly does it mean, right?
I've, I've been
We
there
say,
sometimes.
yeah. So what we say for that is, no matter what you know, you're gonna die, and no matter how long you live, rather, no matter what you know, and no matter how long you live, you're gonna die not knowing way more than the things you know.
Well, come on. What you know is what you know, right? So yeah,
The things you do not know will
you
always
don't
be
know.
more than the things you know. That's
Mm,
life. Live for a
mm.
1,000 years. The things you do not know will be more than the
You
things you
won't know
know.
everything.
So you know
Absolutely.
what? It's okay. You're a brilliant guy, but you don't know everything.
Yeah.
So just, you know, be be pay attention. Be open
Yeah.
minded, right? That sort of thing. Be open minded, and it's okay, right? It may be different, but if you're open minded, you may learn something. That sort of thing, right? And that
Mm.
goes back to being a team of experts, right? Because how are you going to be a team of experts if you're not like a learning machine? You get what I
Listen.
mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. That sort of thing. Now, I mean, before we say going into our suppliers' values and our principles and all those our
Mm,
behaviors, we we were talking about culture. Yes,
mm,
which is still part of it. So number one, having clarity in terms of who we are and what's important to us, without deceiving ourselves. That sort of thing.
mm.
And if there are parts of us that we do not like, we're not going to capture that as what we want. We take
Yeah.
it out. We don't want that. And if there is something we want to be that we're not yet, we also add, that sort of
Mm,
thing, because we are meant to think about growing, not to stay in the same place. And over time, those things keep changing as we get more information, as we know more. That's one. So that's clear. Number two is, for my style is to be as open minded as I can be.
mm,
Let me take that back. My style is to be as open as I can be in terms
mm,
of sharing what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, as much as possible, down to who I am.
mm,
Right. So I through in the onboarding process, I would even explain myself to people who
mm,
were hiring that, look, this is me. These are some of my weaknesses. This is the way I respond to these things. This is how you can help me, right? And this is what is important to me as an individual, right?
yeah.
This is when I do a certain thing, this is what it means,
Mm,
right? And also I give like commitments, right, to the people to say, look, this is what I stand for. I'm telling you this now. You may not believe based on your past experience. In the next 6 months, would have had situations where I would have been tested in front of you, and so you
mm.
would see that that's what it is. So,
And
also being very consistent with what I say that we are and
uh-huh.
what we actually are has made clarity. Now, that being said, the first thing I said about the culture thing is the culture is not eating apple and drinking fruit tea.
Yeah.
Is that people are clear on who they are.
Yeah.
There's a DNA for the organization,
Yeah.
right? And for our organization, it's very, very clear. It's clear in ways that off the record I can share some things with you, but it's super clear, right? People know what to expect, know what it is, know what's not acceptable. It's just there, right? Very, very clear.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Sefa. I know that we don't have a lot of time, so I just want to quickly ask the question around, what's the size of your if it's okay to share, the size of your organization today? And I know you probably have some full time and maybe you have some freelancers on the field and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'll talk only about full time. I'll not talk about the
The
guys
guys
that
on the
are
okay.
via contract. Yeah, we're about 16 of us today.
Okay. Okay. And then
Yes.
the guys on the
Uh,
field who have it okay, who
we
does
have we have the third party folks as
guys
well.
who are doing stuff with you. All right. All right.
Yes,
Uh,
we have those. Yeah.
okay. So looking back, I mean, I've enjoyed this conversation, way more than I thought I would enjoy it. I've enjoyed it a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing all that you've shared. Now, one last question for you as you go, Surfer. That question is: if you look back at everything and you want to do it again, right? Or you have opportunity to just watch a younger version of you about to start out on this same journey that you have been on, what would your advice, what would your advice be or your guidance be to that younger version? What should they do differently? What should they do faster? What should they, that kind of stuff?
Two key things: think bigger and move faster.
Think bigger, move faster. Wow, that's scary. That's scary. What I hear from that is the obstacles are not as bad as we kind of perceive them to be or we think them to be. Will that be correct?
No, they are. It's just that there are, and again, I don't think it's a fair thing to this type of thing to someone who has not had their own fair share of scars on the battlefield, right? So
Yeah.
it's about thinking bigger would be that there are if you're going to battle, you're going to battle.
Yeah.
You might as well think about armor tanks and the rest, right? Versus AK-47s, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
you're going to battle. There's a chance that you might die.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well go for that, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing, and all that, and then move faster, clear those villages down, right? And all that, conquer those territories as fast as possible, and but while you're doing that, again, battle. If you die in the process, it's fine. It's okay. So I would move faster, and I'll think bigger. Yeah, which is exactly what right now I do. Uh, oh, in terms of how I think about things. Yeah,
Yes.
yes. I hope
Well,
it's
so
not too generic and a motivational speaker like to say that. You know.
no, I really don't think so. To be honest, the because you can't really be too prescriptive about it. Everybody's journey is unique in a sense. So there are some specific you can give, and somebody will be like, "That's not relevant to me." But broadly enough, right? If you think bigger, we'll move faster, right? What you're essentially, that's why I said that what I see you saying is yes, there are obstacles, yes, there are challenges, but they are surmountable. So don't be limited by small thinking and because you have fears that some things. Do you get what I mean? So that's the way I look at it. I don't really think they sound motivational, and there's nothing wrong in them sounding motivational actually. But I think they make a lot of sense in my opinion.
Yeah. So what I'll add to that is not like there are one one aspect of it is, no matter how the challenges are, there will be solutions to them. Another aspect
Mm.
is that even if there are challenges that there are no solutions to, and you fail,
You've
you
learned,
get up and you try again.
yeah, you've learned.
Think big
Yep.
and move fast, right?
Mm.
Do you get what I mean? Just
Yeah,
think as big as you can, move fast, fail,
still
think big
forward.
again, move fast,
Mm.
fail,
Mm.
think big, move fast, fail. And because you're learning, right?
Yeah,
And all that stuff. You have absolutely no reason not to move super fast. Yeah.
got it.
Because
I
typically
mean,
people are not moving fast because of fear, right? So
yeah, that's what holds us back most of the time, right? It's fair, right? And if that fear is not there, what people will essentially do is they'll go bigger, they'll go faster. If that fear is not there, so if we can deal
yeah.
with that, then we should be good.
I want
Sepa,
to say something. I want to say
go ahead.
something before we round up. Think, move fast, and think big, but don't be stupid, right? And when I say that, I
Yeah, that's
mean
the balance to
if
it.
you
Yeah.
have a family, to feed, You don't be stupid and say, look, you're gonna move faster and think big and fail
We
fast if
come
you
with
fail, because someone has to pay the bill, right?
yeah,
So I'm talking in the context of you have that handled already,
yeah.
right? Some way, maybe from your spouse, maybe your parents, but don't be irresponsible. Entrepreneurship is not an excuse to be responsible. Yeah,
Responsible. Okay, so think big, move fast, be responsible.
absolutely, absolutely,
Oh, it's been an
absolutely.
absolute delight talking to you, Sefa, about your entrepreneurial journey. I hope you caught some fun to talking about the things you've done and the things you've built. Really glad to hear, happy to hear all of the things that you've shared. I hope that, I believe actually that our audience will find this talk very, not just inspiring, but also very motivating, right? So thanks a lot for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. I know that you've gone out on a limb to be able to make this interview work. So thanks a lot. Really appreciate that, and definitely do have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Okay, in advance.
Super happy to have done this. You're welcome, and have a very happy festive season as well.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a
All right.
lot. Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast to the very end. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you on the next episode.